Welcome to the Black Phoenix Financial Podcast. It is Lee Kent back here for week 3, here with Ethan Cope. How are you doing? Hitting the third week of the podcast now.
Great. Excited to hammer our education.
I was going to say, today. I love seeing the hammer there as well. Do you want to give us a little education?
Yep. We're going to get education. The only thing that always goes up.
That is what it's all about. As you know, if you've been watching or listening so far, I am here to learn along with you that are watching. You know, if you're brand new to this, there is a lot of great education here for you. If you're already trading and you're just interested in other people's thoughts, how they do things, there's a load of great content for that as well. Please follow us on social media, get the message out there. If you like what you hear and encourage to listen, we are across platforms at VP Financial Pod. Ethan himself is at T4A Phoenix, that is PHENUX. Lots of daily content there, clips, snippets, highlights from the shows going out, and actual trades and what Ethan is getting on with as well. So lots of great stuff. Give us a follow, promote the content, whatever service you're listening on, please leave us a review, hit the subscribe button. If you're in a podcast player, go back out, hit subscribe. If you're on YouTube, I got this the wrong way round last week, so I'm hoping I get it right. There is a subscribe button here, not here as I said last week, because my screen is mirrored. We appreciate all of the support. It's somewhere. It's along the bottom of the screen somewhere. You know where you're going, bottom right hand corner. So last week I absolutely loved. So we were talking about, well, we opened up the concept of personalities of the stock, which, as I said at the time, just completely blew my mind open. I absolutely loved it. And I did my homework. I went through, I looked at, you said you wanted me to look at 10. I actually looked at 12 charts because I got a bit carried away with myself. And I took a few screenshots which I want to share because I don't know necessarily what I was seeing, but I know there was something there. So I'm hoping I can share my thoughts and maybe you can explain a bit of what was going on as well.
Thank you.
Get these,
yeah, that'd be great.
We'll get these up here to have a look at. And I'll just quickly describe as well for those who aren't watching on YouTube or listening. My first one here from Chart Game took a screenshot, and it's interested me because it was quite static. So the candles, there's a mix of green and red, and somewhere there's nothing in it at all, but they're in blocks, like there's very static lines where they all move along at the same pace rather than the ups and downs, which just completely stuck out for me. And I'm hoping you can enlighten me as to what I should be seeing when I see this.
Yeah, it's a different kind of chart for sure. It's definitely, like you said, the movement of the buyers and sellers is less, there's less volatility. And this type of chart generally, as I'm going through the different companies, the different personalities that we're going to learn about today, these type of stocks basically have no personality.
Right.
They have zero personality.
So when I looked at it and thought there's nothing going on here, there really is nothing going on here then.
Exactly. Yep. So generally, especially as a beginner, I like to skip these things.
Yeah. So lack of movement is not a good thing to be seeing then. Is that my takeaway?
That's exactly right. And the exciting thing that we're going to learn today is groundbreaking. It's something that I've developed. It's all me. And we're going to learn about the holy trinity of chart picking.
Love this.
We're going to learn about the
homemade
holy
concept.
Trinity. Yes. And it's not the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost. It is the baby, the teenage girl, and the Navy SEAL. We are going to learn how to grade stocks on a sliding scale that develops a personality, and we're going to be able to start to grade the personality within a half hour of any given trading day, the structure of the stock, and we get clues on how the stock's going to perform, which ultimately leads to a better trade and potential profitability in the long run. So I'm excited to get into that today.
I'm very excited about this too. Hope those watching and listening are as well, especially with this being an original concept as well. So I saved 3 in total. Shall we have a look at what these look like? And you can tell me there's anything here. So this is my second one.
Okay.
Which again relatively flat. And there's a bit, and I don't know if I'm right here. It seemed to me, it's, it's on the rise here. There's this big event here where it kind of shoots up, and then
Right.
it's quite flat, and there's not many trades. And to me, it kind of looked like everyone was just kind of holding fire, if you like, waiting to see what was going to happen. But then nothing really happened.
So this is actually falls in a very similar category as the zero personality, or the low liquidity chart, and it's different. You can see it's different from the last chart that we looked at because it has a little bit more action. There's a little bit more interest in the stock. You see that the candles are healthier, but this is one that we would look at to try to give a personality, or to try to see a personality as we examine the chart as we go through the day, to see if it develops a personality.
Okay, so this is one that's got a bit of potential just because there's a bit of volatility, if I'm using that word right, but it's still,
yes.
And again, for those listening, there's a bit of a, from the start of the day, there's a bit of an upturn. There's a big price variation, but there's not many buys, and then it just kind of flatlines for the rest of the day almost, doesn't it?
Yep. Yeah, and so that's kind of just one, like we were learning in the last show, one of the most valuable skills that a trader actually has is simply observation. Full immersion. It's like kind of like being in the ocean. If you ever want to be a surfer, you got to spend time in the ocean, get used to the ebb and flow of the waves, and then also you recognize that there's different beaches that are more favorable to the surfers. Different beaches, they got huge waves, they got more better circumstances. So that's what we're trying to develop our observation when it comes to stocks here. And surfer will kind of just wait for the perfect time to get in.
I like that. Good observe. Analogy. I will just say though that even though I look like it strikes no chord with me, because even though I wear a headband and I wear pastel color t-shirts, I live miles and miles away from the sea. I just gave in that here in the UK they closed all the barbers during the first wave of COVID, and I just kind of got stuck into never getting my hair cut again.
Okay, so well,
I'm a poser.
Oh, nice. Well, for me, everybody knows that I have a disability, so I won't be surfing in this life, but I hope in the next. I really enjoy, my whole Instagram is filled with surfing videos, and my wife as well. So if we ever get to the next life, that's something we plan to do together. So in terms of our financial interest, the analogy, like you said, I feel like it works because it's a skill. It's less of a rigid rule setting than it is an observation and then a skill set.
I really like that as an analogy, actually, and I've got a feeling if it's an interest, we'll see a few more surf analogies coming up. But like you said, there's skills to it, but you need to you read the waves, and we're reading the charts. So let's get onto my third one.
Excellent.
Which actually at the start of the day, and it cut it off here because of the size of my screen, it completely tanked. Like the opening, as soon as it opened, it just dropped. Okay. And then it rose again quite sharply. And then again, for people listening, it kind of middles out for the rest of the day, and then it kind of has a decline towards the end of the day. But there's a lot of red and greens going on in this one. So is this moving more to a personality stock?
Yes, absolutely. And this would fall just from, we're looking at a very selective time frame. So just from this particular image, I would grade it as being somewhere between a big baby and a teenage girl. Like you said, it dropped real hard. So that means that the buyers were interested in two things, taking profits and looking to buy at a lower price. So that means that I grade it as a baby or a teenage girl, because it means that the people that are involved in the stock are more skeptical about a higher price. So that leans a person that's grading a stock more towards a short bias or a negative bias off the start.
That's interesting. I like that. So yeah, so you say this, yeah, it's got the potential in its volatility to be on the downward rather than an upward.
Yes. And those things can always change. There's that's the cool thing, or I should say the learning aspect about this is that at any moment a stock can go in a certain direction. We saw in this past week how the president's tweets can affect market volatility. So new stocks can get good or bad news and then develop a very strong one of those three personalities. And I'll give you an example with COVID when it was first being identified and we were having trouble in the economy with shutdowns.
Yeah.
The SPY became a big baby. So you end up with a short bias. And then say lately we've had potential treatments come about, so you have a change that the personality is now a Navy SEAL. And then Trump tweets a few different things in the day. The stock goes up, it goes down, nobody knows what's going on. You got a teenage girl, so you have to identify risk at that level, maybe be out of the market entirely. You call that a price discovery area. So this is where this grading becomes very nice, is generally we avoid the teenage girl.
What's the best way to describe the Holy Trinity, the three of them? Do you want to talk us through them, or shall we get some charts up and we can do some live time relating to what they look like?
Yeah, I think it would be better to, we're going to go through a number of charts and see if we can do some guesswork in terms of observation together.
Perfect. I like the sound of that. Right, here I am in my chart game. Doing a day trader again, yeah?
Yep.
Is that the plan? Cool. I will click
that
there.
That is it.
We will go into it and I'll try as much as possible. I'll describe what we're seeing again for those listening, obviously on YouTube, up on the screen here. So
very good.
Chart number 1.
And we, this is the end of the day. So when we hit next bar, it will be the market open, I believe.
Yeah. So I hit on there. Is there anything to note in how it's looked in the previous day, or is it more about looking at what we do going forward now?
Well, this one, generally we just go forward and we're getting that there's no personality in this stock currently. And the first, you can just keep hitting next if you want. And you see how the time goes by from 9:30 to 10 o'clock. This time of day in every market is called the price discovery.
Yeah.
Between 9 and 10 o'clock. And so for day traders or people that are interested in managing a position intraday, they realize that first half hour is going to be the best time to identify where a stock is headed for the rest of the market period.
So is that quite often that this opening half an hour here, does that kind of in a lot of time set the tone for that stock for the day, really? Yeah.
Yes. And for our purposes, as a beginner, I would avoid generally trading in the high volatility part of the day. I want to try to identify distinctive trends that are easy to pick out. Say the stock is going up or the stock is going down.
So this starting bit here for me in my beginner shoes, this is all about observation right now. No diving in, no getting on board. Look at where things are going. And this one is an example then of describing it off. So yesterday, again, for those listening, very static price, very limited movement, not a lot going on whatsoever. opens today, nothing, nothing, nothing. Suddenly I've got a big green candle on my screen. What does that mean to me?
Well, that means that there was a gap down. I call it a gap down in price because there's no data between that last tiny red bar and then the beginning of that green bar all the way down. It means that it's showing a little bit of volatility. There's a little bit of buyer interest, but it's at a lower price.
Yeah.
So the stock, in terms of my observation, is actually still weak.
Right.
So I would just hit next bar for some more information.
So there's a couple more. See, nothing much has happened in the next 2 clicks. A little bit more of a green candle and small amount of buys.
Yes.
Red, nothing.
So right now this would be either a no personality, a teenage girl, or I'm actually leaning towards a big baby.
So let's go down the big baby route then. What here tells you this might be a big baby, and what are the characteristics for that big baby? Okay,
so yeah, this is a good place to pause. As we look at that price there at $70, what we're able to, the information that this ticker is giving us is that the people who owned this at the lower price, who bought it after that gap down at 69, are now skeptical about the price going higher. So they're giving us what I call a flag in terms of price. They're telling us maybe this stock is going to go lower. And then so we had all the information from the beginning that this was generally neutral, that it didn't have a personality yet. And now it's telling us that it's leaning towards the baby. You know, it's no longer neutral. It's starting to put its eggs in the negative basket. So what I would look for is I'd look for a decisive selling right around that line to then confirm my big baby thesis.
Okay. And that is, and the baby, I take it then, that is crying, yelling, stomping. This is going down.
Yes, exactly. I mean, when I say big baby or like a colicky baby, it means it's going down and generally on high volume because sellers take the elevator where buyers take the stairs.
Right, let's click and see if that's confirmed. You just brought back all sorts of repressed memories of colicky babies into my mind there.
I know, I went through it too. I have a young one. I've got 2 young ones. You know, so what I do in this instance is I'm still developing my thesis and looking for information. I guess it would be detrimental to learning how to trade these right now. Right now, we're just working on the personalities.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, there we go. Look at that.
So this is a baby.
Yeah, so we've dropped bit in the line. So the decline a bit steady, and we are dropping and dropping.
So my short 69. Thesis. Yeah, so my short thesis is intact. My baby is showing clues over and over again that it wants to be a baby.
Look at that, and we are down and we're staying down.
So now we have to always be looking for clues that our thesis is incorrect. It's a safety mechanism that we will learn in this grading feature. You know, the stock had previously been telling us it's a big baby. It's weak, but as it declines in price, supply and demand changes, so the stock's personality can change.
So does it potentially become more attractive as that price declines down?
Exactly. And then the personality can quickly reverse. So as the personality momentum shifts, or there's a drying up or clues towards a change in personality. A good observer notices that.
So here we're still now, it went from, as was the price, it was at 70, it's gone below 69. In fact, it's in the low 69 now, and it's now, what have we been, another hour or so, and it's just relatively going along that line. There was a bit of a surge in activity where there's a sudden spike in buys, but that looked to be a bit of a one-off. And this is for your concept. As I click through, there's a thing that I learned as a very fundamental level of doing, I think it was sociology, one of the ology things that you do at college when you don't have anything else to do. And it was a concept called falsification, which is what you talked about there, which is where you have a thesis or a hypothesis, and the way you prove it is by constantly looking to disprove it. And the longer you don't disprove it, the more likely it is to be true.
Yes, I'm glad that you brought that out. That's how I dip by, that's how I develop a short thesis. And I didn't get very many likes on the tweet, but I said that I'm learning to embrace my mistakes, or learning to, the mistakes are a good thing in this department, because they give you a lot of information. And if you view mistakes as information gathering, you'll never lose in this endeavor. As long as your mistakes are small, you use those information for your wins.
That's great. There's a great quote I love, which says, I either win or I learn.
Yeah. Yep, that's right at the top of my Twitter page, and I believe in it 100%. And everybody who's ever made any type of improvement, whether it's a sport or a skill, they're not defeated by the roadblocks. I mean, the Wright brothers, the amount of mistakes it took to get an airplane in the air. And we take it for granted anymore.
Absolutely. No, that's exactly right. And that's why I'd love this, as well as the trading stuff you put out on Twitter. Again, T4A Phoenix, PHENUX. Really encourage you guys listening to go over and follow it. It's the mindset stuff as well, because that's what's got you where you are. The reason you've been able to educate and learn and develop is that mindset. And the thing I'm learning from you, very much so, which wasn't even in my mind when we talked about doing this, is the observation and the patience and the learning. So I've stopped here at 3:55 before it kicks us off, because we're at the end of the day, and we've closed. Well, we're here now. We're just threatening to go below 69 now, looking at that. So I think, if I'm right in looking at that, your big baby's played itself out for the day, and it's just had one long tantrum for the entire day looking at this.
Exactly, but it wasn't enough of a tantrum for me to identify it clearly.
Yeah.
To say, like, all right, it had colicky spells, but like different times you go over, somebody's house, whatever, and you say, nah, that's a bad kid or whatever. It wasn't enough for me to say that. So I would still observe and keep going. What I would do with this information is I'd say, hey, this showed a lot of weakness all day. Maybe the next trading day, it could be definitively a bad kid.
Yeah. And is there a chance, like I said, it's an inconvenient baby at the moment rather than a big baby, but like, is there a chance that might turn around with a bit of interest if it's, and I think we talked about this separately, and if I'm running ahead, tell me not to, but this is something that's been higher maybe in the past, looking at the charts, so maybe some interest will come back into it, or like you said, it might just continue its pan. And if it was a baby for a while, would it then hit a stage where you'd be like, right, I'm done observing this one, it's not doing anything for me?
Generally, there's only, most people who start out trading, they start out with a modest trading account, so they only have so many bullets, they only have so many arrows. Most people only have so much time in a day, so isolating where the biggest bang for your time is going to be is also, I feel like we talked about prior to the show, is sustainability. a lot of this is your mental capital and your excitement in terms of to go forward, to keep going. Uh, so sustainability, where you spend your time, is super important.
No, that's good. I like that. It's good to know where the observation should be. So here we
So,
go. Let's go at chart number 2.
yep.
So we've got here again for those listening. There's a bit more ups and downs on this one. A lot of static places, but there's quite a few large candles and some big gaps in between where not a lot is going on. So what does this look like to you coming into the day as I move us through that first half hour?
Right. This one is one of the ones that is having trouble developing a personality. You see those areas between the candles where there's no movement at all, almost. I see like some gaps where there's literally, I would identify this as no trading. So then you do have little insights of strength in there, but they're not enough to make me interested. So I would observe this stock, know that it is a company that's actively trading to some degree, but for a beginner, anyone that's learning, this would generally be one that you would either for purposes, learning purposes, we sit next bar to see what happens. But generally, as I'm picking my chart games, I just hit end game,
So this one will be done. So for curiosity purposes, I'm going to run us through this one. But like you said, this would be early on. You'd be like, let's skip over this one.
Yep. And that's what I do a lot of. That's what I do a lot of times.
Oh, sorry, go on, mate.
I'm sorry.
No, you go. I was talking over you there.
I was just going to say that, you know what? I lost my thought. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I cut you off there and completely lost your train. So
okay.
Other than that move there, this has just been, like you said, flat for the day.
Yes. Yep. So it's showing a little bit of personality. So I have interest in calling it a baby, but I have no interest in trading.
Okay. Right. I'm going to take your heed and we're going to skip over this one now then, because that's what the advice is there from my sensei.
Excellent. And what we get, the education with trading is so neat because you get to select where you spend your time. You get to select these things eventually can come to you. And it's a lot different of a stock picking process than we talked about different things you hear on CNBC, and they throw around all these different ideals, or it ends up to be gambling. We're going to own this company for a whole life, and we're going to try to figure out the technicals for each company. So that's investing. And then they call it Trader Nation on CNBC. The majority of those people, they lose money because they're following companies. The company does bad, they pull out, and they end up in this cycle of they don't have any clear set rules or plan. But that's the most important thing when it comes to profitability, is finding your personality, finding your what do you like to trade? Do you like to trade the big babies? Do you like to trade the Navy SEAL? Do you like to trade something that grows over a period of 6 months, or are you wanting to do intraday trading? So there's a lot of different ways to make it your own.
I love that. That's really, like I said, you fit it to your style, which again, I don't think I'd have thought. Right, so here, chart number 3, previous day, it's a bit like looks like a very sedate roller coaster with a few ups and downs.
Exactly.
But a bit more going on.
Yep, right off the bat, I have interest in this because what I see is some Navy SEAL-like personality, believe it or not, right off the bat. In the first 5 minutes, I'm able to discern that 2375 price area is interested in being broken. So what I look for in the next few minutes is a real display of strength.
And is that so? From the previous day, it been quite up and down, like I suppose is there a fair bit of interest? Is that what shows you it's potentially Navy SEAL, or is it harder to articulate? It's more of a feel once you've seen quite a few of them.
It's there isn't anything to call it a Navy SEAL yet. What I'd call this is a strong man or a company that would be displaying some amount of strength. So in the next few minutes, I'd like to see it definitively showing strength. So it gapped up. It made a big jump in price, which I'm trying to get the right word. It makes me feel like it's an imitator, or it's a faker almost.
But it's done that. It closed out 23. Is that 23.8? Would I be right in saying that?
Yes. So I see the big jump.
Sorry, go
on. Big jump in price, but it doesn't give me enough confidence.
But it doesn't. There's not a lot going. Even though there's a jump in price, there's not. Oh, I know. Still not. There's not a lot going on, is there?
Right. And then now you see traders taking profits at that price, which makes you not really have any idea what's going on right now. It's figuring out what kind of personality you want it to be. It's identified that it doesn't necessarily like being at the 23.75, but it doesn't really like being at the higher price either.
No.
So we're observing, we're sitting in our tree stand, watching deer go by, and just waiting for that one that's going to be worth our time. And what's cool about this is the more we observe, the more accurate we are, because as you get used to the ebb and flow of the market, you get to pick out times where there's a definite trend. And there is no definite trend.
No. We're not there yet, but once we get going, and once I tick a few tasks off the setting up a podcast administration list, we're going to get a bit of t-shirts and stuff going for the show. And I'm most definitely going to do one that has ebb and flow as a slogan across the show, because you've used that a few times, and I absolutely love that and feel that with how we're looking at it. And it ties back to the wave thing as well, like you said, feeding the market. So I want ebb and flow to be one of our key catchphrases.
Excellent. Yeah, I like it. Get used to that groove, right?
So they're not there yet, but if you're listening to this in a year's time from when we recorded this, there must be a link somewhere you can click that takes you to our store, and hopefully that t-shirt has come to fruition. If not, You walk down the street and you see every third person wearing one.
Fair. I like it. I love like our own version of the swoosh, right?
So as we click through, there's not a lot going on, is there?
Nope. And this would be another example of I'm teaching you how to select.
So this is not our deer, and we should move on.
Yep. This isn't a stock we want to be involved in.
Goodbye, stock.
And the cool thing is we hang on to all our money. We hang on to all our choices, and in the market, a bullet that we fire out of our rifle to make an entry, especially if it's big size, that bullet can market participation can be expensive. So the idea here is to learn how to use real money.
Yeah.
The idea here is to be the best, to learn how to use real money in low risk at first, and then to be able to take on enormous risk when the opportunity presents itself.
But like playing poker, you don't play every hand, but you certainly watch what's going on every hand.
Yes. Yep. And the more information that you take in, the more things that you get comfortable with, you'll be able to say, hey, pocket aces, I'm going to lay these down all in, or you identify that you got a really good hand in front of you, and we'll see them. We will definitely see them. Different times when you're being patient, when you're being an observer, it can be very difficult to just next bar, because you want to get your feet wet, you know.
Yeah.
Even as a game, it's hard to observe.
I think, and that's the biggest thing over these free shows, this patience thing, this learning thing is the biggest concept that sat with me. And actually, to the point, I'm quite comfortable that I'm more eager to be at a place where I can predict where something is going and think, yeah, I got that right, than necessarily just stick some money in. So my fictional 100,000 is still sitting there and may do for some time. So stock number 3, we've got.
Very good.
It's a little bit of a downward trend towards the end of last day. Lots of not much movement in price, and a flutter of small amounts, buys and sells in the 10, 20, 30,000 range. But what's this telling you here?
This is telling me that it's leaning towards a baby. It has a trend of sellers. I generally, as I look at this, just real quick, I see more red than I see green. And I see a general amount of red volume on the bottom as well. So I am actually interested in trading this stock, making a negative bet against the stock in the baby direction.
So you'd be looking to short on this one, yeah?
Yes. So I'd be looking at that level 2080, and I'd like to see a definitive selling into that price.
Yeah. So we've had, so the first half hour I've ticked on, and there's, again, a mix at the moment, I suppose. So see what we see as we go through.
Yep. So it's leaning more towards that. That's an indeterminate candle around that area, but it's getting weaker. Now it's made its decision. So this is a baby. That's the grade I give it. So
would you potentially look to jump in here, or would you observe a bit more?
For a person that's just learning, I would observe here, or I would take very small size, maybe one share, to get familiar, to get my emotions involved a tiny bit.
Here we go. Like you said, not a lot by, there's more, it's selling, but in very, very tiny volumes, isn't it?
Very good. Yeah. So I would have gotten in here in the last few ticks for sure.
Cool.
And started to, we'll talk about this in future shows, but I immediately, as soon as the trade starts going my direction, I start locking in small amounts of profit. And the reason I do that is because it allows me more patience in the trade to get familiar with the movements, slight movements in personality, and it pays my mental capital. And we're going to learn that in future shows, how important it is to reward yourself even a little bit throughout the trade. The mental capital is the most important thing to learning the sport.
So what I love that, calling it a sport, by the way. I really want to desperately, and this is what I'm going to not do, is say, okay, so explain to me what locking that in means, but that's for another show in the future. I've just got that in my head. There's another term I don't quite understand yet. But back to this stock here, this has just been on a constant, steady decline of sales since you got in. You got in at 20.6. That's about where you said you were going to jump in. We're now at 20.3.
Yes, and this is trend gathering steam even a little bit, where the volume in the sellers hasn't quite dried up. So it's continuing to make new lows.
Okay.
So this is an example. What we've actually just seen here is we've seen an example of how observing a personality really does allow us to make a thesis towards the direction.
And like you said, you just keep falsifying this, but this has just gone exactly where you said it was going to go.
Yep.
And look at this. That is just, people are just shedding this all day long.
Yes. So this would be graded as a baby. This is fairly easy, as we saw within the first half hour. We're able to start through our observation, giving it a guess or a maybe. Maybe this is going down, and then as it continues to go down, it's going down more. And then what a experienced trader likes to see is they like to see momentum building even in the direction of your thesis, and that allows them to potentially put more capital on the line when their thesis is proven right.
Look at this, and we are edging close. There we go. We are below 20 now.
So we're learning a lot. It's amazing.
Creeping back in.
Amazing how much you can learn just through observation. For me, I'd be out of this trade now.
Yeah. Do you think this is where it's kind of hit its bottom? Do you think?
Potentially, it could. I would like to see it renew that momentum by breaking that line that it seems to be starting to find the bottom on. So if the seller started made a big sell now, I'd re-enter because I'd see a definitive personality. So it's starting in that direction.
There we go. I clicked too far and we're off, but that finished about 19.4, I think, for the day. So you'd like you said, you'd have been in and out there, and you'd have done quite well short in that one as well. So that was good. This is
Thank you.
Big baby day we've got going on right now.
Exactly, and that was what I was hoping we wouldn't have to skip too many charts to get to it. But what you get to see is the patience. It really pays off.
Yeah, well, like you said, there's 4 charts there, 5 charts, and on the one of them that was the one to go in on, absolutely would have come out that in a good position.
Yes, and that it gives you valuable information to make a judgment call, or to start to make a judgment call.
So let's go in see if we can find ourselves another baby.
Very good.
New chart here. So what are you seeing as an instinct as we look here, where there's, I'd say, a mix of red and green on the bottom, and a fairly up and down melting peaky chart going on?
Yeah, we have a little bit of volatility. We have upward momentum because I see 2 areas at 34.40 where it tried to go for a new price, and then it's actually succeeding a little bit.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of strength in this one, and so that helps me develop a thesis that the buyers are more excited about growth.
So you're reading this, whilst this is up and down and there's a bit more green in it, and I suppose it's peaking higher each time. So you're reading this as an upward chart rather than a downward chart at the moment.
Yes, but it's not a Navy SEAL.
No.
It's just showing some strength.
So let's go through that golden half hour and say, whoa.
Yeah, so this is what keeps you from thinking, hey, this isn't necessarily a big baby, It keeps you from, you're not going to want to take a negative bet against this stock here. Different times people, as they're learning, they'll take a negative bet against anything that's up.
Yeah.
But this is showing that it has some potential. I would have probably thought about getting long, very small size.
Yeah.
As it's showing strength, because that's a gap up, which means that there was so much interest in the stock trading at a better price that you don't even see, it's not even charted, the difference between 34.50 and 34.75. So that usually you put a flag there and you say there's going to be, in a period of time here, there could be a bigger jump in price.
Let's see how that goes. We're climbing some more. Like I said, big jump again for those listening. straight away on opening, and it's had a couple of climbs since then. I mean, we're only at 10 past 10, so it's early on, but you think you might have gone in with a small amount here, do you think, to see where this goes?
Yeah, if I was looking for a long or a buy bias, like a Navy SEAL bias, I would potentially put some small size in here and see if it would confirm what I wanted to do. But the cool thing is inside our topic for today's show of identifying big babies, a big part of identifying a big baby is actually identifying what a big baby is not.
Yes.
And this is not a big baby.
No, and in fact, with your eye, you got that before even opening, and that first 5 minutes would have absolutely confirmed that for you. And if you were looking to short, you'd be out. That won't be off. You'll be on to the next one straight away.
Yep, and that's where that's key, because avoiding the biggest mistakes puts you in an area to potentially become profitable. It's a big jump in your learning curve when you can say, this is not, different times traders, they're wrong in a thesis, and they'll add to the position, in the goal of it turning around in their favor. But the quicker you can identify a personality and say it's either weak or strong, it helps you to trigger yourself to get out.
So with this here, been clicking through here, we're into the afternoon now, and we've had a comfortable increase, but on a relatively flat line, I'd say. To my, again,
yes.
if I start giving observations and you're like, what are you talking about? Just cut me off, because I don't want to be steering people in the wrong direction.
No, you're right. You're basically seeing a shift from a little bit of strength to no strength, no personality. So there's no trade. Once it shows personality is the time I start to develop a thesis. Here I'm developing a little bit of a strength thesis, and probably would have gotten long, small size, to see if it would confirm. And I wouldn't have any big size either way, and I'd be potentially out, just because when a stock isn't picking a direction and you're picking a direction, it's just always better to be neutral if you can. When you amplify when in doubt, get out, or you amplify your sensitivity to the other direction as much as possible.
But really, so you're not, rather than trying to will the stock in a direction, if it's not going that way, that's out, and find one that wants to play your game.
Yes, exactly. I love that. Yeah, find one that wants to play your game is exactly right.
There we go. And that was that, like you said, it had a bit of increase. It was on a slow up trajectory, but it wasn't really doing anything. It turned up to the party, it had one good joke, and then it lost its personality altogether.
Right. Yes. So we had basically in our show today, we had an example of tight risk, very safe short call. We were able to read it from the chart. It was very modest, it wasn't a big gain, but it was also very comfortable. And that's what we're going to learn. That's what we're going to look for. And for beginners, especially starting out with a small account, those comfort trades are where it's at.
That's good. I found that was fascinating, and I've learned so much. And we say to everyone, our original concept coming into this is we were going to do the Holy Trinity. There's that hammer, I love it. And we were going to do big babies, we were going to do teenage girls, and we were going to do Navy SEALs. We were going to hit all three of those personalities. And actually, what we did was we saw a lot of stuff that we could see wasn't going anywhere, and we found a really, really strong big baby, and a few things that clearly weren't going that way. So actually, from the Holy Trinity, this has become our big baby show. What I'm going to do, and what I encourage everyone out there to do, is between now and next week, get on that chart game and seek out those babies. See how many you can identify. And falsify it. Get to know what that looks like. Look for those heavy stocks coming into the day that you think are going to go down in that wrong direction. If I've picked that all up right there, and I'm gonna see what I can learn from that, and then hopefully next week we can try and pick out some teenage girls in exactly the same way.
Yes, very good, very good. And one of the little tricks I do is just out of the corner of your eye, you look at that chart. Does it look mainly green or does it look mainly red?
That's it. And that's what I got there from where you said. And I think that's really important for looking at that, for seeking them. So I say, I look for the big babies. We'll do that teenage girl personality next week. And the week after, we'll talk about that one that, you know, instinctively, I was going to say everyone should be looking for, but a baby is as valuable as a seal, isn't it? Depending whether you're going long or you're going short.
Definitely. There's a lot of very profitable traders that make a lot of money making a negative bet against the market. And the goal with me and Lee putting out this education is I want to be the best. I want to be the most disciplined, the most, I want to grow from the least amount of money to the largest amount of money. And the reason for that is simply because I have a difficult situation. You know, I've wanted to learn as much as I possibly can. And that's what we're going to give to you. We're going to teach you how to go long. We're going to teach you how to go short. And we're going to try to teach you how to maximize your education.
Absolutely. So what is our tip for this week? Speaking of that education in real time, what are you looking at the moment? Where would your smart money be going?
Very good. Right now, I have a list of different stocks that I'm watching. The market overview is that we're in a period of bullishness. There's a lot of money coming into the market with the hope of a recovery. So this is generally not a time to make a negative bet against the market. So what I do with my buying thesis is last week our call was Cisco, ADT, and Rite Aid. So I'm actually looking, those stocks they've showed a little bit of buying, but they have volatility. So each of those, first, Cisco is still a buy at any price for a long-term hold. I mean, any price in the range it's trading at. I think it's in the 39 to 38 area today. So that's still a buy. ADT is still a buy for me between the range of the 30 cents area all the way to the 17 cents. I think it's trading in the $8 range. So that's a buy in those areas. And any pullback in Rite Aid and the coming days is also a buy for me.
Excellent. And we've, 2 weeks in, we've been following through very well with them. Some really good results about what you've mentioned. So I would advocate people, again,
Excellent.
This is not financial advice. This is just education and opinion. So take it for what, take it for that. But
we are not experts
so far.
We are not experts, but what I am is I'm a dedicated, very intense person who likes to learn. So I'm hoping to share that with our audience.
Brilliant. So we're creeping up to our hour-long time, which we think is good chunks of people to absorb this information. Did we want to throw out a couple more books off that reading list for this week for people just to finish off the show for the week?
Well, I would like to reiterate the other books and add one more that I actually started reading myself last weekend, and it's The Daily Trading Coach by Brett Steenbarger. And it is amazing. Just a little bit into the book, and I was already thinking about incorporating a daily rehearsal of some of the ideas that he proposes in that book. Just a holy grail. One Good Trade by Mike Bellafiore was the top of the list last week. The Art of Short Selling, and I think Trading for a Living.
That's it. That is right, Joe. I'm glad you did that, because I'm hurriedly scrolling through our conversation on my phone to find the list, but I didn't even need it.
Very good. Well, you can tell that they're close to my heart because they're right in there. So yeah, give them a look. It's a lot of information to digest. One of my favorite ways to study, actually, in the beginning, because I was a lot of pain meds, dealing with a difficult situation, I would actually play a video game and have the audiobook going on in the background, you know. So I was learning, and it's amazing how much you can pick up by a low pressure learning environment. You know, don't necessarily try to push yourself to observe things all at once or to absorb things all at once. And that's what I did, is I started out by playing a video game and listening to a book.
Love that. Very, very good advice for those wanting to get on and study and learn. Well, this again has been excellent. I hope everyone out there has really not only enjoyed this, but has got a lot from this. We'll be back next week to talk about the next stage in the personalities, run through some more of that chart game, see what we can pick out and what we can see.
Great.
Again, everyone, follow us on social media, give us shares, retweets, get involved, comment, tell us what you think about the show at BP Financial Pod, and Ethan directly on at T4A Phoenix, PHENUX. We would absolutely love to hear from you. Whatever podcast device you're listening on now, we would love you to leave a review, hit that 5-star button, hit subscribe to get this each and every Thursday. If you're on YouTube, you're either here or here. I can't remember which one it is. There's a button right there.
Down there somewhere.
Hit subscribe. And again, we'll be out Thursdays, YouTube, podcast services. Catch us on Twitter. He has been Ethan Cope. I've been Lee Kemp. We have been the Black Phoenix Financial Podcast, and we will see you next week.